Welcome to another episode of the Hospitality Reputation Podcast, Get Great Reviews. I have had the pleasure of speaking to my guest today, Lonny Wolfe, on a previous episode of actually one of the first episodes. He was so inspiring, and now he's on a new venture, and I had to give him a chance to tell us more about what he's up to. Lonny, you were so amazing as a hotelier, having 5-star reviews consistently for a 3-star hotel. I love to tell stories like that. And now you've decided to help more hoteliers as the owner of the Art of Housekeeping. I was about to say the Art of Hospitality because I'm so used to saying that expression, but the Art of Housekeeping is of particular importance. Don't you agree? Obviously, you do, since you're committing yourself to it.
Absolutely. My goal I've left being as a general manager. I've taken the property that I was at to 93.5% on excellent guest reviews. And I stayed number one for 7 years, and I left number one after 7 years. And my goal now is to take your property, the next property, to the same level, not at 60, 70, 80% guest reviews, but to get them greater guest reviews and to teach the housekeeping team what is required to be number one in regards to training, standard of procedure, perfect room presentation. There's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes, and that is the passion that I have, is to make that property number one in the surrounding area that they're located, and to get the awards, which gets them bragging rights, which gets them a higher average daily rate. Especially today in a highly competitive arena, there's no room for error, and you want perpetuity from the guest and the guest to recommend that property. Guests are the social ambassadors for what we do
And it's
every
so
day,
true.
360.
It's so true. And I think, especially in this time period, uh, with the pandemic striking out again, with the Delta virus, we also have tremendous labor shortages. We have a lot of challenges to deal with. And yet, definitely, travel is still on the rise. Despite all that, it's still on the rise. And I'm used to dealing with hotels that are maybe not always luxury hotels, either luxury hotels or upscale hotels, but a lot of hotels, even in the boutique space, even in branded, in independent, and definitely a lot in the more economical level of hotels. I've read reviews from around the country and around the world, and I can't believe how many hotels at this time are tolerating having reviews one after the other saying filthy, disgusting, and I wonder what the owners or the general managers or the employees are thinking. I know that it is a labor challenge, but let's talk about that first. During your experience at your hotel, you just left. And during that time, did you have any trouble keeping your housekeeping employees throughout the crisis?
Since day one, when I opened the doors of the property as GM of the property and took the property out of construction, for 7 years, I had no turnover in the housekeeping department. Zero. Never.
And what do you think is the reason for that?
Respect the team. And just because they're housekeepers doesn't mean they're any different than what I do, what you do, or anyone else does as an owner or a GM or someone high up in the organization. They're the true importance of the property. They're the heartbeat within. They're the ones that make the art, the magic in the rooms to create the moments and earn the memory. So every day, I would thank the team for the day that we did prior. I would thank the team for arriving to work. I would thank the team for everything that they do every day, 365, 7 days a week, 24/7, when we are in contact at the property. I would always make sure their families were safe, because their importance and their family's importance was number one for me. And they loved it. And the other thing that was important is, especially in the state of Florida, I have a lot of people that speak Creole, French, or Spanish. So engage with them in their language, learn some of their language. and engage with them in their language, and they respect that you care about what they do, not only what they do, but what language they speak, to interact in that language as well. So the lady that was with me, for all the staff for 7 years, the lady that spoke Creole would understand the Russian, and the Russian housekeepers would understand the Creole. So over 7 years, I kind of pounded it in them because I love language. I love to, when guests come to a hotel, you get guests from all over the world, from China, from Hong Kong, from Japan, from Canada, United States, Asia, Vietnamese. I can speak a little bit of everything, every language I just mentioned. I
Wow.
recently had a guest coming. They lived in Jersey. They were at the hotel and they spoke Chinese. They spoke zero English. It was great for me because now I'm gonna do my wow factor and speak to them in their language. And they didn't know what the code was to come in the front gate, which is simple: 1, 2, 3, 4. And in Chinese, it's E, oth, and sir. And they looked at me and said, "Wow, you know that?" And I love to engage it. Or it's same thing with people that are from Germany or Israel. I will engage in their language any way that I can to create a smile. Because remember, like I said in the beginning, we create a moment and earn a memory. They just remembered that I said hello or good morning or asked how their wife was or their children in their language. So they're going to remember that.
It's you're saying it's not that you learned the entire language, but you learned to say certain things that you knew would help them along the way during their stay.
Absolutely. There's probably about 12, 15 languages in my repertoire that I can start a conversation and end a conversation with the guest, depending on what country they're from. Absolutely.
I'm sure that they're really touched by that, and that it adds a lot to the equation. But there's really, you might even come back to a hotel where the people were not exactly perfect to you. Maybe everything was just okay, even if they weren't the most charming. Even if they didn't make you feel extra special, even though obviously you and I know we both agree that if you make everybody feel extra special, that's how you're going to get a lot of loyal guests. But they may still come back if they have a less than perfect service experience, but I don't think they'll ever come back if they have a bad housekeeping experience. Wouldn't you say that that's true?
Absolutely. Give you an example. Prior to COVID, I was consulting a property in Pennsylvania, a 239-room Hilton property. So the gentleman owned the asset, and it was run by a management company. I flew down to look at the property undercover. I went up to the roof line, down to the boiler room, and I went through the whole property to include many, many rooms. When I met the owner the following day with some of the, should we say, higher up in Hilton at a beautiful steakhouse, he said, "I hope you're going to be kind about my property." I said, "I'm going to be as kind as I can." He said, "What do you think?" I said, "It's the dirtiest, nastiest property I've ever walked into. If my wife was with me, we would have to leave." He excused himself from the meeting, immediately got back on the phone with the management company, and I was on board for the next 60 days. And I turned it around.
Wow.
But it
Wow.
was it was beyond dirty. It was beyond dirty. And you know what the funny thing was? I knew within 10 seconds of walking in on through the lobby door, and that the GM had been there for 13 years. I knew his time had come, and we hadn't even met yet. And the
Yes,
indication was I was
I
looking for
understand.
a hand sanitizing station, a Purell station. It was there. You could draw your name on the base. It had cobwebs, dirt, bugs, and it was full of mold. So I asked where the location of his office was. It was outside. The door was to the right, the station was to the left. So he walked by it many times a day. So for him not to take off his suit jacket and put on latex gloves and clean it was appalling. And I knew immediately he had to go. After the 60 days, he was let go. After 13 years, no bragging rights, no awards.
Right, right. So, you know, obviously, it is difficult. It takes marketing dollars. It takes something to get new guests to come into the hotel. And it's such a waste if that first time they come, they'll never come back again. If you just book them and burn them, you're going to have these negative reviews that are out there. not only are those people not coming back, but they're actually detracting from your reputation and sending people away who might have stayed at your hotel because they like the location, because maybe they have points from the brand that umbrella that it is, maybe for a lot of reasons it would be a convenient hotel for them, but they won't defy those kinds of complaints unless you are dropping your rates so low that they can't afford not to stay there, that they are just saying, well, I'll just tough it out because I just can't afford to spend any money. So obviously, your average rate is going to be very much diminished. Your ability to charge is so diminished
And you
by
attract a
having
different
bad
level of
housekeeping
people.
problems. Don't you find that to be true?
Absolutely, you attract a different clientele. So if you have a property that's dictating 69 to 89 and you have another property that's number one down the street dictating 129 to 159, you attract a different clientele to these properties. Always. You'll get people that are doing things that they should never be doing. There's a property not far from where I am here in Ocean Ridge. I'm on the island, so I'm on the coast. But when you go on the mainland, there's a property there, and I still can't believe how bad his reviews are, and it doesn't bother him in any way, shape, or form. He's probably sitting at 30% on excellent guest reviews, if that. And everything says nasty, dirty, drug infested, et cetera, and not to include the rodents running around corridors. And it doesn't bother him. I'll often wonder how people get into a business as a hotelier, but really don't care about presentation or what the room is because they really shouldn't be in the space. It's like going to a restaurant and ordering. It doesn't matter what you're ordering. If you're going to a high end or low end, it still should come out fresh and warm and hot and delicious, not the other way around.
100%,
You know, it's
100%. Sorry, go ahead.
it's the same thing in the hotel space. There should be more regulation that it should be looked at more often about the dirt and cleanliness in these properties. And it's like going into a kitchen when you find rodents and you find cockroaches, etc. They can be closed down. I'm from Canada. In Canada, they have very tough rules. In the United States, they're not like in Canada. So I think hotels should have a different standard of regulation, that they're inspected by inspectors. And if they're not up to par, guess what? We're going to close down that room until it's up to par, because it's amazing how many rooms are beyond nasty, beyond
Yeah,
nasty.
especially in this time when there are truly health issues happening, and we should protect the public. But let's say you're an investor, you live someplace very far away, and you're just owning a little bit of a bunch of hotels, perhaps in some kind of a group. You're not really paying attention to the details. You feel that you have a manager on the ground, but as the owner or as an owner or even a stockholder, you are diminishing your profits, even if it was for no other reason than not to diminish your profits. You are going to earn more money. It's going to be easier. You are going to have to spend less money on marketing. Turnover happens when people think that they're not having a good life. They're not feeling satisfied, like they're making a contribution to the world. They're not feeling like they're making some sort of achievement. They're not learning anything. They're not being appreciated. They're not being creatively expressed. They just are trying to do the minimal because nobody appreciates anything anyway. But when you put in someone who shows that they care about the outcome, and you say, hey, team, I know we can do this. We can make this place shine, even if it's old.
Absolutely.
We can start looking at the details. We can all work together, and let's see, how can we prepare to greet these visitors with sparkling, clean, fresh, pleasant atmosphere so that they can have a good experience and hopefully come back again and again.
It's funny, pre-COVID, I've always acted as, owning a cleaning company in Canada for 24 years. I'm the fuss of fuss, and I turn it up every day. And I know vendors, I know product, and I know how to get it clean and why we clean it. And I didn't do anything different when COVID came, except using an electric static gun, because the products I were using were CDC, Johnson and Johnson, and peroxide, and the touch points are the most important in the room. Before COVID, I did exactly what I'm doing now, except I added an electrostatic gun to the equation. And there's so much that has happened in 18 months, and it's amazing that how many properties, we even away from hotels, trains, planes, restaurants, how they think they're doing it right, and they're still not doing it right. It's very important that the guest sees visibility of what you're doing. I'll give you an example. So let's just say I'm at a property in Hollywood Beach, Florida. You want to see that the housemen care. They're wearing masks in the corridors, number one. Number two, when they're removing dirty linen, if it's in the corridor, they're wearing latex gloves. And number three, they see that the houseman and the housekeeper, after they've entered the room and left the room, is cleaning the touch points. The touch points being the keypad of the room and the handle of the room. It's really important guests feel safe, and visibility of what we are doing in the space is just as important. Just don't hide behind the corners. I was at a property recently, and I was amazed that what they were doing, and I was like, I can't believe you're operating like this, like there's no pandemic, and there was no Lysol, no CDC products, nothing on their cart. And for me, it was appalling, let alone walking around with no masks. Like there was no care in the world. I still wear a mask. I care about other people, and I will continue to wear it until this pandemic, hopefully in the imminent future, is done with. But hygiene is key, is number one in the hotel space, any space.
So how can one begin? If let's say you're a new general manager to a hotel that is in quite a state, and this is your first time being a GM, what do you recommend to those people as to how to get started?
As a general manager of a hotel, don't walk into your property and say, wow, I'm the big guy here, I'm the elite here, I'm the general manager. You're just as important what everyone else does on the property. Show direction, show leadership. As an example, every morning you should have 3 different meetings: food and beverage, engineering, and housekeeping. You're going to start the day with housekeeping because that's where it starts in the early in the day. You want to talk to your team. You want to inspire your team. What do I do to inspire the teams at these properties? I'll give you an example. I'll play the theme song from Rocky. So instead of them sitting slouched, you start seeing the smiles on their face. I start high-fiving them, thanking them for what they did the day prior, what we're doing today. Here's your board. Let's have a victorious day. Remember, we are here creating moments and earning memories. What do you want to talk about? What's concerning you? What do you need? What don't you need? Have these meetings 7 days a week, 365. It makes a huge difference for what the GM's going to do and make it easier for him, and what the team needs and what they don't need. And always inspect the room. If you don't have a director of housekeeping or a supervisor, well, guess what? Take off the suit jacket and start inspecting rooms, because you never want to sell a room without it being 99.9% perfect, from the shower walls to behind the doors to inside the cupboard to inside the safes. I even, when I was using the electrostatic gun, I not only did I do from the ceiling all the way down, I did the coil of the AC to include the vents in the wall, in the ceilings. So I really hit hard. Because I'm really fussy, and I want to make sure it's perfect for you. The goal is for you to come safe and leave the same way, not come where you left sick. So as a general manager, put in the time, come in early. Don't be just because you're on the clock and you're working a 40, 50-hour week. That means nothing to me. Come early, come 6 o'clock, come 6:30, see what's going on in the linen department. Start something down in the linen department so it's easier for when your team arrives. See what you can do to make it a victorious day and take the stress off the team, because housekeeping is the hardest job in the hotel space. End of story.
I definitely agree. They are working so hard, and it can be really backbreaking work. And especially now, when there seems like there's a lot more trash in the room, people are being, I mean, a lot of times very disrespectful. I've seen so many pictures of people being disrespectful as to how they treat that room, even breaking things. Uh,
Absolutely.
and garbage all over the place. Even though a lot of hotels have stopped doing service in between check in and check out, something has to be done to get rid of the trash, probably before the housekeepers get in. Otherwise, they're overwhelmed and are having twice as much work as they would normally have done previously. Did you, you probably had a higher level of guest because you had such high rated reviews, and you were probably charging more than other three-star hotels because of the great experience. Did you get away with not having that kind of trash situation at your past property?
Yeah. So what I did was it was no contact check-in. Number one, so there was no interaction with guests, and number two was there was all the paperwork and all the information to include a standard of procedure was extra white garbage bags in the room. So every day you would leave the trash. Remember, it's an open space, no elevator type of property. So you would leave your linen outside the door that you need changed, or that from including your towels. And if you wanted us
In
to
a
change,
bag?
sorry,
In a bag or
in a
in some other container?
no, in a clear, clean white bag. So
Okay.
outside the door would be garbage and your towels. And then we would take the garbage and it would be taken away, and the towels would go down to housekeeping into the linen department. And then a new set would go outside your door in another clean white bag with a label on it saying clean linen. So we took away your trash and we provided you linen, your towels, etc. When you wanted, we didn't come into the room to service the room, but on the fourth day, if you asked for it and there were instructions in the room, just make the call to the office or call me directly. We'll send in a staff if you excuse yourself from the room, and we will clean the room and change the linen for you. So we did whatever it took to make the guests super happy. It didn't matter. For me, it doesn't matter if the guests need something, they're going to win because I want them to be happy. End of story.
Was the check-in contact list because it was handled prior in pre-stay emails?
Yeah, so an email would go out that we would be in contact with you 24 hours prior to your arrival, and we would provide for you the gate code when you came, tell you where your parking was, and give you the access code to the front door, which was a keypad. And for security reasons, when you excuse yourself from that room, we remove the access code and put in a new code for the next guest. For security reasons, obviously you have to do that.
Sure.
But there was not, it was smooth sailing from day one, and everybody loved it. And we stopped serving coffee and muffins, and it's still suspended. Even though I'm not there, it's still suspended. But other properties can bring it back, depending on what type of property you are. For an open space property, you have outdoor seating, you have outdoor area or a gazebo, place it there, and leave signs, be aware of your surroundings and other people. Please, be cautious, etc. The signs make a difference, and that's what I did at the hotel. They always knew they had clean linen because there was a little circle that said clean linen on the white bag. But no one ever complained about not getting service, ever.
And do you think it's because of the way you communicated with them before, so they knew exactly what to expect?
Absolutely. Even when there was no COVID, communication was key. How can we, are you, I mean, let's just say you're coming with your husband, and I'll ask you, are you coming for a special occasion? And you would tell me, yes, I'm coming because we're celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary. Well, guess what? I am so happy to hear that. Upon your arrival, I'll leave you a bottle of champagne in your room. I'll leave you waters in your room. I'll leave my business card in your room. I'll do whatever it takes to make your occasion, because you're celebrating something, even more special. Remember, I'm creating a moment and earning a memory, and you will remember that. One of my favorite things I did at the property, because it's a small 17-room high-end boutique property. So let's use the example: you're coming to the property and you're a first-time guest. Even if you're a repeat guest, I still do it. I would have under my arm a 3x3 red carpet that said welcome. And before I took you into the room, I would show you how the access code of the front door worked. I would roll the red carpet over the hearth of the front door, and I'd say enter, and I'd roll it out saying, every guest is special to me, you're royalty, and you would walk on this red carpet. People would look at me and go, wow, where's the paparazzi? You know, it was free promotion of the property. It cost me $40 to have the rug, and they loved it. They loved that I took the extra mile to take them to the room. And when taking them inside the room, I would turn on the ice maker because I would never have ice ready for them for hygiene reasons because they don't know if someone else touched that ice. So I'd make sure the ice maker was on if they wanted it on. And a lot of people from different countries are not familiar with garbage disposals or garbage or carburetors. And I would tell them we have a carburetor. Are they familiar with it? So people from Germany and different countries are not familiar with it. So I'd show them how it worked and what goes in there, not bones, but vegetables and food. And, the presentation of the room, the amenities, made sure they were happy. I would excuse myself. And before I excused myself from the room while interacting with the guests, I would ask if they need places to dine, any recommendations. And if they said yes, I would provide them and tell them why they were going there and why I liked it. And then I'd make sure they had a great time when they were there. And, you never want to be intrusive. So when you see them around the property in the pool, good morning, how are you? Everything good? But you don't want to be intrusive and be in their space. They're there for a reason, be business or pleasure. Never be intrusive, ever. So
But you let them know you're there for them if they need anything, and you see
absolutely.
them and you
And,
appreciate them.
and their pets.
Yes, making a pet happy is making the parents of that pet happy for sure.
Absolutely. And, there would be times where guests would come to the property and it would be 9 in the morning and they were already irritable before they even got in the front door. So they must have had an argument on the way prior, or they drank. Some guests, if you can smell the alcohol on them. I'll give you an example of an interesting story. So guests were in the office and they started bickering and yelling and using profanity towards the two of them. So with a smile on my face, I said, "I'm going to excuse myself from the office while the two of you finish your moment." They both looked at each other, and I left the office and I came back, and they did have a smile on their face because of the words that I chose. And I
Mhm.
got them back to their, what we were doing. This is pre-COVID, and up to their room. And I made sure, even though they were still not happy with each other during the stay, there was nothing I was going to do except to make them smile. And I can always get an unpleasant guest, nothing to do with the property or the surroundings. Smile, period. That's what I do.
That's wonderful. If there were just two or three tips how to get from wherever you are in terms of getting good reviews regarding your housekeeping service, what would you tell someone who is a hotel owner or a general manager? Anything
Great.
that you haven't said?
Absolutely. Great question. So you want to start off with leadership with your team every day. There has to be a standard of procedure and a proper room presentation, and it should be on a slide behind the house in the linen closet wherever the housekeepers will see it. And remember, we are creating moments and earning memories. And it's very important the general manager and the team knows that the guests that have arrived are the property's social ambassadors. They're the ones that are going to write a great review, no review, or a bad review. And when you get bad reviews, the end result is less heads in beds, less bragging rights, no awards, and not a higher average daily rate. The number key thing in a hotel space is cleanliness and hygiene and visibility of what you're doing. For example, when you go to a hotel and you see an open lobby with a bar and restaurant, it's very important you don't have the person that's sitting behind the bar staring at their phone doing nothing. What can they be doing? Making sure the guests are happy, the bottles are wiped, and the menus. Menus is a big pet peeve of mine. Have to be clean, not just the back and front, but the inside too. I don't want to open a menu and see that someone sneezed on it. There's a pepperoni and there's someone's pasta sauce on it. If I see that, I'm out of the restaurant. I'm done, and I'll even tell someone, say, "I can't believe you allowed this." So it's very important that visibility of what the team does and the guest sees it, to include masks and hygiene and safety. But standard of procedures for all hotels and the perfect room presentation is very important, because when a housekeeper leaves that property to go across the street for 25 cents and you bring in someone else, even if they're not trained properly, at least they see it behind the scenes and on a screen every day. Oh, I didn't place the water this way, the coffee this way. Oh, the pillows are 4, not 6, and they're placed this way. The lamps go over here, not over there. Why? It will, if you pound it in them every day and you treat your team with such respect, because they're creating the magic in the room, they will stay. They will stay from day one. As I said prior, I had no turnover in 7 years in the housekeeping department, ever.
It's like you treated them as working allies, but also you gave them the courtesy and respect that you expected them to show to everyone else. It's hard for someone who's not treated with courtesy and respect to then feel in the proper frame of mind to give that kindness and dignity to others.
If you
So
don't
they have to be in the right place.
Absolutely. If you don't have the right direction, remember, it's not what I do, or it's not what someone does as a hotelier, an owner of a hotel. It's never use the word I. It's what we do together. We are one, and we are one team, and we have one opportunity to win over that guest today, and hopefully they come back another day in perpetuity. At the property that I just was at, I had guests in 7 years that would live in the Miami corridor that would come every other weekend, year after year, because they loved it. That was their go-to property. To imagine and remember, here's the best part: no marketing, no advertising. To be number one at 93.5, there was no money spent except what I was doing each and every day. Remember, the guest is royalty, housekeepers are royalty. You put the two together, you're going to have a royal room, and you're going to have a victorious day. Two things happen in the housekeeping world. It's going to bring you weak to the knees, or you're going to have a victorious day. And it doesn't matter what the challenge is, I have a victorious day. It's in my mindset, even though it may have had difficulty for whatever reason. Still, we ended the day with victory, period. And safety, hygiene is key.
Yes. And I love what you started with. Come in and ask your team, what do they need to be successful? Because they know what's going on. And very often they have plenty of good ideas as to how to relieve the situation from where it is now to where it should be. And
Absolutely.
and don't diminish anybody's dignity by berating them. Be of service to them and be helpful to them and supportive of them so that they can be successful. And they will, and you all will succeed together.
Well, you used the word successful. So, as an example, the property that I just left after 3.5 months of consultation in Hollywood, Florida, you know, I said to the team on my final day, remember, this is the best part. I can't wait to come and stay at your hotel just because you're a housekeeper. And I never call them housekeepers, they're house technicians. What they do is magical and what they do is art. So one day, put your thinking cap on. Don't think you can never get there and own a small boutique property, because you can. And I look forward to you calling me and inviting me to your property, because just because you're doing what you're doing doesn't mean you can't be a hotelier and own a hotel. If you have the will, the passion, dedication, and it's sewn into you, it's a no-brainer. You can make it happen.
Well, I love it. Thank you so much, Lonnie, for sharing that with
Pleasure.
us. Look, if I know about any hotels that need to have a little housekeeping renovation, especially in their process and their thinking about it, and really get those great reviews. It's the most important thing
Absolutely.
in your aspiration to get reviews, is to make sure everything is clean and sparkling. So, how can they reach out to you?
Well, they can. I'm a big follower on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn and read my about and experience. And once you've read it, you're going to be wow. And I'm one of these. I'm from Canada. I'll put my money where my mouth is, and if I don't execute, don't pay me. I'm not there just for the money. I'm there to make your property and your team number one, and to get you the scoring that you need, and to get you the heads and beds. Because without heads and beds, no one wins. In
That's true.
closing, I will leave you with this: general managers, director of housekeepers, supervisors, go to the OHA website, click on cleaning and sanitization course. It's done through Procter and Gamble. It doesn't take long, and you will read and you will learn. And if you pass, you will get a certificate. The more certificates, the more knowledge you have under your belt, the better you will succeed at your property. To include making sure that your staff, especially in the state of Florida, within 60 days, have passed the human trafficking course.
That is so important. That is so important.
Because
Thank
Florida
you.
is, and Texas are big on human trafficking, and fines can be as much as $2,000 a day if you and your staff don't have the human trafficking certificate. And at any point, an inspector can come in and ask for it. So I leave you with OHA, and for the human trafficking course, people can take it for free at safestaff.org.
Safestaff.org. Thank you so much, Lonny. It was wonderful to see you again.
My
I
pleasure.
hope you write a book, just planting that little seed.
Actually, I will be writing a book in the coming years. I've met so many great, inspiring people, and from things that I shouldn't have seen to things that I did see, and it would be a lot of fun to write. And would I do it? Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see you, and I look forward to seeing you on a future episode of the Hospitality Reputation Marketing Podcast. Get great reviews, everyone, if you enjoyed this conversation, and I would really appreciate it if you liked it, commented, shared it. Even leave us a review if you wouldn't mind. We'd love that. And of course, visit my website, adelgutman.com. I'm looking forward to seeing you subscribe to the podcast and to the new ventures we have coming out in the future. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon.
See you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.